The day I caught them together wasn't even the worst part. No, the worst came 3 months later, when Rosalind had the audacity to throw a party at my family's vineyard. The same vineyard where I'd grown up, where Oscar and I had gotten married, where I'd planned to spend the rest of my life. My name is Zoe, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. A loving husband, a thriving family business, and what I believed was a supportive stepmother. Funny how life has a way of shattering everything you think you know. I stood at the edge of the property that evening, watching cars pull up the winding gravel driveway. The fairy lights Rosalind had strung through the grape arbors, my grape arbors, twinkled mockingly in the twilight. Music drifted across the rows of vines, along with the sound of laughter and clinking glasses. "You shouldn't be here," Mackenzie said, appearing beside me. "Let's go get a drink somewhere else." I shook my head. I need to see this. Through the windows of the main house, I could see Rosalind holding court in her designer dress, her perfectly manicured hand resting on Oscar's arm. My husband. Ex-husband now, I supposed, though the divorce papers weren't even finalized yet. "Did you know," I said to Mackenzie, my voice surprisingly steady, "that Oscar and I planted those Cabernet vines together 3 years ago? He complained the whole time about the heat, but we did it together. And now he's in there, acting like he owns the place." "Zoe! And my father's letting them do this." I watched Stanley raise his glass in a toast, beaming at his wife, my stepmother, while she basked in the attention. "He has no idea what they did." Eugene, our vineyard manager, approached from the direction of the storage buildings. He'd worked these fields since before I was born, and his weathered face showed nothing but concern. "Miss Zoe, you shouldn't torture yourself like this." "They're destroying everything my mother built," I said. "Everything we've worked for." Through the window, I watched Oscar lean down to whisper something in Rosalind's ear. She threw her head back and laughed, a sound I could imagine even from this distance. I'd heard that laugh so many times over family dinners, never suspecting what was happening behind my back. "Let's go." Mackenzie tugged at my arm. "This isn't helping anything." But I couldn't move. Because right then, Rosalind spotted me through the window. Our eyes met across the distance, and instead of having the decency to look ashamed, she smiled. Actually smiled, raised her wine glass in my direction, and took a deliberate sip. "That's it." I straightened my spine. "Eugene, who's manning the irrigation system tonight?" "Nobody, Miss Zoe. Party night." "Good." I started walking toward the control shed, my heels sinking slightly into the soft earth between the vines. Mackenzie hurried after me. "What are you planning?" I punched in the code and threw open the shed door. "Remember when we were kids and the sprinklers would come on unexpectedly?" "Zoe, no." But I was already hitting switches. Within seconds, the party erupted into chaos as the sprinkler system activated full force, sending guests scrambling and screaming. Through the windows, I watched Rosalind's perfect hair collapse, her expensive dress soaked through. Oscar, ever the coward, knocked over 2 people in his rush to get inside. "That's just the beginning," I said, watching the pandemonium with a satisfaction that should have scared me, but didn't. "They want to play games with my vineyard? Fine, but they have no idea who they're dealing with." Eugene cleared his throat. "Your mother would be proud, you know, not of the sprinklers," he added quickly, "but of how you're standing up for what's yours." I turned to Mackenzie, who was trying and failing to hide her grin. "Help me take it back? All of it?" She linked her arm through mine. "Oh, honey, I thought you'd never ask. But we're going to do this right. Strategic. Make them regret ever crossing you." As we walked away, leaving the sounds of the ruined party behind us, I felt something I hadn't experienced since finding Oscar and Rosalind together in my own bed. Hope. They thought they could take everything from me, but they'd forgotten one crucial detail. This vineyard wasn't just my inheritance or my business. It was my home, my heritage, and my future. And I was done playing nice. The morning after the sprinkler incident, I was already at work among the vines when the sun rose. There's something therapeutic about pruning, removing the dead weight so the healthy parts can thrive. If only fixing my life were as straightforward. You're here early, Eugene called out, making his way down the row. Thought you might sleep in after last night's excitement. I snipped another damaged tendril. Can't afford to. The Syrah needs attention before the heat sets in. That's not all that needs attention. He handed me a local newspaper. There, on the front page, was a photo of last night's chaos. The headline read, "Local vineyard party ends in mysterious sprinkler malfunction." Mysterious, huh? I couldn't help but smile. Rosalind's furious. She's been calling all morning, demanding we fire whoever was responsible for the system. Good luck with that. You going to fire me, Eugene? He chuckled, then grew serious. Your father called too. Says he wants to talk about proper business conduct. Before I could respond, Mackenzie's SUV came roaring up the dirt road, kicking up dust. She jumped out, waving a stack of papers. You're not going to believe what I found, she announced, practically running between the vines. Remember that accounting firm where Oscar used to work? The one he got fired from last year? What about it? Well, I have a friend there who owes me a favor. Look at this. She thrust the papers at me. Oscar wasn't fired. He was caught cooking the books for several clients. They gave him the option to resign quietly. Eugene whistled low. That explains why he's been so desperate for money lately. There's more, Mackenzie continued. He's been trying to secure loans using this vineyard as collateral. Your vineyard, Zoe. My pruning shears hit the ground. He can't do that. He has no legal right. Through Rosalind, Mackenzie cut in. She's convinced your father to put up the vineyard as collateral for their new business venture. What business venture? Some luxury resort they want to build on the upper field. They're planning to tear out the old vines. The world tilted sideways. Those vines were over 50 years old, planted by my grandfather. My mother had protected them her whole life. Over my dead body, I growled. That's the spirit, Mackenzie grinned. And I have an idea. You know the Wine Country Festival next month? The one Rosalind's been bragging about hosting? What about it? What if we hosted our own event? Something exclusive, something that would show everyone who really knows this business. We could invite all the right people, critics, distributors, the works. Eugene nodded slowly. The 82 Cabernet is almost ready. Been saving it for something special. Perfect timing, Mackenzie said. We'll show them what real wine culture looks like, not that pretentious circus Rosalind's planning. A commotion at the main house caught our attention. Oscar's expensive sports car was pulling up, Rosalind in the passenger seat. They both looked hungover and angry. Incoming, Eugene muttered. Let them come, I said, picking up my pruning shears. I've got work to do. Oscar approached first, his designer shoes completely wrong for the vineyard terrain. Real mature, Zoe. You could have ruined thousands in equipment last night. Funny, I don't remember giving you permission to host events here at all. Rosalind tottered up in her heels. Your father gave us permission. Remember him? The actual owner? Co-owner, I corrected. Or did you forget to mention that part to the banks you've been talking to? That made them both freeze. Rosalind recovered first, her practiced smile sliding into place. I don't know what you think you know. I know everything, I cut her off. About Oscar's creative accounting, about your plans for the upper field. Did you really think nobody would notice? You're just bitter, Oscar sneered. Can't stand to see us happy? Happy? I laughed. Is that what you call drowning in debt and destroying a century-old vineyard? Get off my property, both of you. You can't, Rosalind started. Actually, she can, Eugene interrupted, holding up a document. According to the operational agreement, Zoe has full authority over day-to-day operations, including who's allowed on the premises. They left, but not before Rosalind turned back with a venomous smile. This isn't over, sweetheart. Not by a long shot. No, I agreed, watching them go. It's just beginning. I turned to Mackenzie. That event you mentioned? Let's do it, but let's make it bigger than they could ever imagine. Now you're talking, she grinned. Time to show them what you're really made of. Looking out over the vineyard, my vineyard, I felt a surge of determination. They thought they could take this from me, but they had no idea what I was capable of. The vines weren't the only things about to experience a serious pruning. "No, tell me about when it started going wrong," Tessa said, her recorder placed between us on the tasting room table. The young journalist had been persistent in pursuing this story, and after a week of calls, I'd finally agreed to meet. "Which part?" I swirled the wine in my glass. "The affair, or the moment I realized my husband was a fraud?" "Both." She leaned forward. "The community wants to understand what really happened." I closed my eyes, remembering that first warning sign 6 months ago. It was during the Harvest Festival. Oscar was supposed to help with the event, but he called last minute to cancel, said he had to work late. But he wasn't at work? No. A friend saw him and Rosalind at a restaurant 2 towns over. When I confronted him, he said they were discussing family business. I laughed bitterly. I believed him. God, I was so stupid. Eugene appeared in the doorway. "Miss Zoe, the shipment from the Coopers just arrived. Need your signature." "Excuse me," I told Tessa, grateful for the interruption. Outside, Eugene handed me the clipboard. "You sure about talking to that reporter?" "They're going to tell their version anyway. Might as well get ahead of it." I signed the delivery form. Besides, Oscar and Rosalind aren't the only ones who can shape a narrative. Speaking of narratives, Eugene pulled an envelope from his pocket. "Found this while cleaning out the old storage room. Thought you might want to see it." Inside was a photograph I'd never seen before. My mother, young and beautiful, standing among the vines with my father. They looked happy, in love. Before Rosalind, before everything fell apart. "Your mother knew, you know," Eugene said quietly, "about your father and Rosalind. She confronted them right here in this vineyard, a month before her accident." The photograph trembled in my hands. "What?" "Found some old letters, too. Your mother was planning to divorce him, take full control of the vineyard. Then the car accident happened, and well," he trailed off. "Are you saying—" "I'm not saying anything, Miss Zoe. Just thought you should have all the pieces." Back in the tasting room, Tessa was making notes. She looked up as I entered. "Everything okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just memories." I sat down heavily. "Where were we?" "You were telling me about Oscar's lies." "Right." I took a steadying breath. The funny thing about lies is how they pile up. One day I came home early and found bank statements Oscar had tried to hide. Massive debts, failed investments, money moved between accounts that didn't make sense. And Rosalind was involved? Up to her neck. They'd been planning it for months, maybe years, using the vineyard's reputation to secure loans, promising investors returns they could never deliver. A commotion outside drew our attention. Through the window, I saw Rosalind's red convertible pull up. She stepped out, looking every bit the wealthy vineyard owner's wife, despite the mounting evidence of their financial troubles. "Excuse me again," I told Tessa. "This should be interesting." Rosalind burst through the door before I could reach it. "You need to call off your attack dog," she hissed, waving her phone. "This reporter friend of yours is asking dangerous questions." "Truth feeling dangerous these days, Rosalind? You have no idea what you're doing. If this gets out..." "If what gets out? The fraud, the affairs, or something worse?" I stepped closer. Like what really happened to my mother. For just a moment, Rosalind's perfect mask slipped. Fear flickered across her face before she recovered. "You're delusional. Grief has clearly affected your judgment." "Have you told my father about the loans yet? About how you and Oscar plan to strip this place bare?" "Everything we did was for the good of this vineyard." "Get out." My voice was ice. "And tell Oscar that if either of you shows up here again, I'm going straight to the SEC with everything I have." After she left, Tessa appeared beside me. "I got all that on record, you know." "Good," I turned to her. "But hold the story. There's more coming, and you're going to want to wait for the finale." "What finale?" I smiled, thinking of the event Mackenzie and I were planning. Let's just say karma's about to serve something stronger than wine. That evening, alone in my office, I spread out the old photographs and letters Eugene had found. My mother's handwriting jumped off the pages, telling a story of betrayal that echoed my own. But unlike her, I had time to fight back. Time to make things right. My phone buzzed. A text from Mackenzie. "You won't believe what I just found in Oscar's old email account." I texted back immediately. "Tell me everything." The pieces were falling into place, and soon everyone would know the truth. All of it. The Fernandez Vineyards tasting room buzzed with the Valley's elite, all gathered for Cadence's annual wine showcase. I hadn't planned to attend, but Mackenzie insisted it was time to show my face in public again. "Well, well," a voice drawled behind me. "Look who finally emerged from exile." I turned to face Cadence herself, elegant in a black dress that probably cost more than my monthly profits. "Lovely event as always." "Save it." She sipped her wine. "We both know you're not here to compliment my Merlot. Word is you're planning something big at Newton Vineyard. News travels fast." "Small Valley." Her eyes narrowed. "You're going head-to-head with Rosalind's event? Bold move." Before I could respond, a commotion near the entrance drew everyone's attention. Oscar walked in, alone for once, looking expensive but exhausted. His eyes found mine immediately. "Speak of the devil," Cadence murmured. "This should be entertaining." Oscar wound his way through the crowd, stopping to shake hands and fake smiles. I turned to leave, but Cadence caught my arm. "Stay," she said. "My money's on you." Oscar reached us, his cologne too strong as always. "Zoe, we need to talk." "No, we really don't. It's about the vineyard, about our future." "Our future?" I laughed. "You mean the future you planned with my stepmother while sleeping in my bed?" Several nearby conversations stopped. Oscar's face reddened. "This isn't the place." "Actually," Cadence interrupted, "my tasting room is the perfect place for honesty. The best wines don't hide their flaws. They embrace them." She turned to Oscar. "Speaking of flaws, how's that investment scheme working out?" Oscar's jaw tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." "No?" Cadence smiled sweetly. "That's not what my banker says. Apparently, you've been shopping for loans all over the valley. Desperate times?" I watched Oscar's composure crack slightly. Mackenzie's investigation had revealed just how deep his financial troubles ran, but seeing him squirm made it real. "This is a private matter," he said stiffly. "Nothing's private in wine country," Cadence replied, "especially not when you try to use my family's name as a reference without permission." That was news to me. I looked at Cadence with fresh interest. "You know," she continued, "I never liked you, Oscar, even before you proved me right by betraying Zoe. But trying to drag my family's reputation into your mess? That's a vintage of stupid I can't ignore." Oscar's phone buzzed. He checked it, and his face went pale. "I have to go." "Problems?" I called after him as he retreated. "Better hurry back to Rosalind. I hear she gets anxious when her plans start falling apart." After he left, Cadence turned to me. "That was fun. Now tell me about this event you're planning." "Why? Looking for more entertainment?" "Looking to help, actually." She led me to a private corner. "Rosalind tried to poach my head vintner last month, offered him double his salary to help legitimize their new venture." "Did he take it?" "Please." Cadence rolled her eyes. "He's worked for my family for 20 years, but it showed me what they're capable of." "So?" She raised her glass. "How can I help destroy them?" Before I could answer, my phone lit up with a text from Oscar. "We need to meet, tomorrow. It's important." "Interesting timing," Cadence said, reading over my shoulder. "What are you going to do?" Spring the trap." I showed her Mackenzie's latest findings. Emails proving Oscar and Rosalind had been planning this takeover for years, even before my mother's death. "They think they're the ones holding all the cards." "But you have the winning hand," Cadence finished. "Count me in. My distributors would love an invitation to a proper wine event." "You're serious about helping?" "Darling, nothing pairs better with revenge than a good Cabernet." She clinked her glass against mine. "Besides, your mother was a legend in this valley. What they did to her legacy, to you, It's unforgivable. My phone buzzed again. Oscar. Please, one meeting, neutral location. Answer him, Cadence advised. Let him think he's still in control. I typed back. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. The cafe in town. Perfect, Cadence said. Now let me show you something. She led me to her private cellar. Your mother helped me when I first took over this place. Taught me everything she knew about winemaking. I've been saving this bottle for the right moment. She pulled out a dusty bottle, a Newton Vineyard label from my mother's last harvest. Bring this to your event, she said. Let them taste what they're trying to destroy. Looking at that bottle, my mother's signature clear on the label, I felt a surge of certainty. Oscar and Rosalind thought they were playing chess, but they'd forgotten the most important rule of wine country. The best vintages take time, patience, and perfect timing. Tomorrow's meeting would be interesting indeed. The cafe's bell chimed as I walked in, exactly 10 minutes late. Oscar was already there, fidgeting with a napkin, his usual confidence nowhere to be seen. Good. You came, he said, standing awkwardly as I sat down. You have 15 minutes. I placed my phone on the table, recording app running. Make them count. He leaned forward, voice low. We need your help, Zoe. The vineyard. We? I raised an eyebrow. Where is your partner in crime anyway? Rosalind doesn't know I'm here. He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous tell I remembered well. Things have gotten complicated. Complicated how? The investors are backing out. The banks are calling in loans. Everything we planned. Everything you stole, you mean? The waitress appeared. I ordered black coffee. Oscar asked for water, his hands shaking slightly. We can fix this, he continued once she left. Your event next month. If you let us be part of it, show a united front. I laughed, the sound sharp enough to make nearby diners turn. Let me get this straight. You want me to save you from the mess you created while sleeping with my stepmother? It wasn't like that. No? Then tell me, Oscar, what was it like? Was it like the time you forged my signature on loan documents? Or when you and Rosalind planned to tear out my grandfather's vines for your ridiculous resort? His face paled. How did you know about that? I know everything. I pulled out copies of the emails Mackenzie had found. Every meeting, every plan, every lie. Those are private. Nothing's private when you use company emails, Oscar. Basic mistake. But then, you always did get sloppy when you were desperate. The waitress returned with our drinks. I waited until she left before continuing. Here's what's going to happen. You and Rosalind are going to stay away from my vineyard, my event, and my life. If you don't, these emails go to every bank and investor you've contacted, not to mention the SEC. You wouldn't. Try me. I slid one particular email across the table. This one's interesting. A message to Rosalind from the day before my mother's accident. Want to explain what you meant by taking care of the problem? Oscar's water glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. Several patrons jumped. That wasn't what it sounds like, he stammered. No, because it sounds like you and Rosalind had plans long before my mother's convenient accident. Plans that only worked if she was out of the picture. You're twisting things. Am I? Because Tessa from the local paper finds it fascinating. She's running a story next week about my mother's death being reopened for investigation. That was a bluff, but Oscar didn't know that. He looked like he might be sick. What do you want? He whispered. I want you to leave, both of you. Sign over any claim to the vineyard, admit to the fraud, and disappear. We can't. Rosalind would never. Then I guess I'll see you both in court, or prison. I stood up. Oh, and Oscar? The recording of this conversation has been uploading to my cloud drive the whole time. Just in case you get any ideas about denying this conversation. I was almost to the door when he called out. Wait, what about your father? I turned back. What about him? This will destroy him. Finding out about Rosalind, about everything. You should have thought about that before you helped his wife try to steal his daughter's inheritance. Outside, Mackenzie was waiting in her car. How'd it go? Exactly as planned. I buckled my seatbelt. He'll run straight to Roslyn. And she'll panic, Mackenzie grinned. You know she called your father this morning, trying to get him to sign over full control of the vineyard to her before the banks start asking questions. Did he? No. Apparently, Eugene showed him some interesting paperwork about unauthorized loans in his name. My phone buzzed. A text from Tessa. Story's ready. Sure you want to wait? I typed back. Hold until the event. Trust me. Speaking of the event, Mackenzie said, Cadence called. She's invited every major distributor and critic in the region. Even that famous wine blogger from San Francisco is coming. Perfect. I looked out at the valley rolling past, the vines still bare in the winter sun. You know what pairs well with a public takedown? What's that? A really good vintage. I smiled, thinking of my mother's last bottle sitting in Cadence's cellar. And I know just the one. My phone buzzed again. Roslyn this time. We need to talk. Now. I turned off my phone. Let her panic. The real show was just beginning. 3 days before the event, I found Eugene staring at the old vines in the upper field, his face troubled. Something wrong? I asked, joining him. Your father's here, in the main house with Roslyn. He pointed toward the building. They're arguing, loud enough to hear from the storage shed. Through the window, I could see them gesturing wildly. Even from this distance, Roslyn's desperation was visible in her movements. How many RSVPs for tomorrow? Eugene asked. 200 and counting. Cadence's connections came through. Every major player in the valley will be here. And the evidence. Ready? I patted my pocket where I kept the USB drive. Mackenzie's organizing it all into a presentation that'll play on the screens during dinner. Tessa's story is set to go live at exactly 9 p.m. Eugene nodded slowly. Your mother would be proud, but also worried. About what? About what this might cost you. Revenge has a way of... A shout from the house interrupted him. My father stormed out, his face red with anger. Roslyn followed, grabbing his arm. They're coming this way, Eugene warned. Stanley, please, Roslyn was saying. Just sign the papers. It's the only way to protect everything we've built. Built? My father yanked his arm away. You mean destroyed? The banks called me this morning. How could you take out loans without telling me? I was trying to save us. This vineyard is dying, can't you see that? The only thing dying here is your credibility, I called out, making them both turn. Stay out of this, Roslyn snapped. This is between me and my husband. Nothing about this vineyard is between just you two. I stepped forward. Did you tell him about Oscar yet? About your plans for the resort? My father's face went pale. What resort? Don't listen to her, Roslyn pleaded. She's bitter, trying to turn you against me. Like you turned him against Mom? Silence fell across the vineyard. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. What are you talking about? My father asked quietly. Show him, Eugene said softly. Show him the letters. I pulled out the envelope I'd been carrying for days, waiting for this moment. Mom wrote these the week before she died. About you and Roslyn, about what she found out. My father's hands shook as he took the letters. Roslyn's perfect mask cracked. Stanley, don't... But he was already reading, his face growing paler with each line. When he looked up, there were tears in his eyes. Is this true? He asked Roslyn. Were you and Oscar, even back then? It wasn't like that, she stammered. We were just... planning, I finished. Planning how to take control of the vineyard. Mom found out, didn't she? That's why she was driving to the lawyer's office the day of her accident. You can't prove any of this, Roslyn hissed, but her voice wavered. Actually, Mackenzie's voice rang out as she approached from the main house, tablet in hand. We can prove quite a bit. Your emails from back then were very detailed. I saved everything, Eugene added. Every document, every changed order, every suspicious invoice. Your mother asked me to, Miss Zoe, just in case. My father sank onto a nearby bench. The letters crumpled in his fist. All these years, I thought Catherine's accusations were just jealousy, but she knew. She knew everything. Stanley, Rosalind tried one last time, reaching for him. Don't touch me. He stood up. Don't ever touch me again. The event is in 3 days, I said to Rosalind. You can either leave now, quietly, or stay and watch everything come out publicly. Your choice. You wouldn't dare. Try me, I smiled. By the way, Oscar folded like cheap patio furniture, told me everything. The SEC will be very interested in his statement. Rosalind's face went through a range of emotions before settling on cold fury. This isn't over. Actually, it is. My father's voice was firm. Get out of my vineyard and tell Oscar. Tell him the police will be in touch. We watched her storm off to her car, designer heels sinking into the soft earth between the vines. I'm so sorry, my father whispered once she was gone. Catherine, your mother, I should have seen it. We all should have seen a lot of things. I touched his shoulder. But we can make it right now. The event, Mackenzie said gently. We could use your help, Mr. Newton. Show everyone what this vineyard really stands for. He straightened up, wiping his eyes. What do you need me to do? First, I said, help me protect these vines. Mom loved them more than anything. Except you, Eugene corrected. She loved you more than anything. Looking at the vineyard stretching out before us, I felt her presence more strongly than ever. In 3 days, we'd serve justice alongside her final vintage, and everyone would know the truth. The evening of the event, the vineyard glowed with thousands of twinkling lights. Cadence had outdone herself with the decorations, transforming the space into something magical. 200 of the valley's most influential people mingled among the vines, glasses in hand. They're here, Mackenzie whispered, appearing at my elbow. Oscar and Rosalind just pulled up. Right on schedule. I smoothed down my black dress. Is everything ready? Presentations queued up. Tessa's article is set to go live, and that special bottle from your mother's last harvest is breathing. She squeezed my arm. You sure about this? Before I could answer, Oscar and Rosalind made their entrance. They'd dressed for battle, him in an expensive suit, her in a red dress that probably cost more than most people's cars. But I could see the strain in their faces, the slight tremor in Rosalind's hand as she grabbed a glass of champagne from a passing server. Showtime, I murmured. I took the stage where a microphone waited, tapping it gently to get everyone's attention. The crowd quieted, turning to face me. Welcome to Newton Vineyard, I began. Some of you have known this land for decades. Others are new friends. But everyone here tonight shares one thing, a love for authentic wine and authentic stories. I caught Rosalind's eye in the crowd. She was gripping Oscar's arm so tightly her knuckles were white. My mother used to say that every bottle tells a story. Tonight, I want to share one with you. I nodded to Mackenzie, who started the presentation. Photos began appearing on the large screens. Old pictures of my mother, the vineyard, documentation of loans and fraudulent papers. This is a story about legacy, I continued, about trust, and about what happens when people try to steal what isn't theirs. Oscar started moving toward the exit, but Cadence's security team was already blocking the doors. Rosalind stood frozen, watching her crimes appear in high definition. Over the past year, certain individuals attempted to take control of this vineyard through fraud, manipulation, and possibly worse. I paused as gasps rippled through the crowd. They thought nobody would notice. They were wrong. You can't prove any of this, Rosalind called out, her voice shrill. Actually, my father's voice boomed as he stepped onto the stage beside me. We can prove all of it, including your involvement in Catherine's death. The crowd erupted in whispers. Tessa, standing near the front, was recording everything on her phone, live streaming to her newspaper's website. You see, I continued, my mother discovered their plan just before her accident. She left evidence, letters, emails, records of meetings that certain people claimed never happened. Oscar broke away from Rosalind, pushing through the crowd toward the stage. Zoe, please. Please what, Oscar? Please don't tell everyone how you and my stepmother plotted to steal my inheritance. Or please don't mention the SEC investigation that's about to begin. Right on cue, two men in suits stepped forward from the crowd, showing their badges. Mr. Kennedy, Mrs. Wagner, we'd like you to come with us. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Rosalind, seeing her world crumbling, grabbed a bottle from a nearby table and hurled it toward the stage. It shattered against the screen, wine spraying like blood. "You ungrateful little bitch!" she screamed. "After everything I did for you." "Everything you did to me," I corrected, my voice steady. "And to my mother. And to this vineyard." Security moved in quickly, restraining both Oscar and Rosalind as the federal agents approached. The crowd watched in stunned silence as handcuffs clicked into place. "Ladies and gentlemen," I addressed the audience again, "I promise the rest of tonight's wine will be served in glasses, not thrown. And speaking of wine," I gestured to Eugene, who wheeled out a cart with a single bottle. "This is from my mother's final harvest. She never got to see it bottled, but she knew it would be special." As Oscar and Rosalind were led away, I began pouring small tastings of my mother's last vintage for the critics and distributors in attendance. The room buzzed with conversation. Phones lit up with notifications as Tessa's story went live. Cadence appeared at my side, accepting a glass. "Well done, though I think you actually undersold the drama." "Evening's not over yet," I smiled, nodding toward where my father stood, talking to the federal agents, providing his official statement. "What happens now?" she asked. I looked out over the vineyard, at the lights twinkling among the vines my mother had loved so much. "Now? Now we make wine. Real wine, with real stories behind it." "To authentic vintages," Cadence raised her glass. "And authentic justice," I added, clinking my glass against hers. The night air carried the sound of sirens fading into the distance, while the vineyard continued its age-old work of turning darkness into something worth celebrating. The morning sun painted the courtroom steps golden as reporters swarmed around us, shouting questions. Mackenzie pushed through them, creating a path, while Eugene and my father flanked me protectively. "Miss Newton, how do you feel about the verdict? Any comment on the 20-year sentence? Will you be pursuing civil charges?" I paused at the top of the steps, turning to face them. Justice was served today, not just for me, but for my mother. Inside the waiting car, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. The trial had been exhausting, but watching Oscar and Rosalind's faces as the guilty verdicts were read made every moment worth it. "You did good in there, kid," Eugene said, his weathered face proud. "Catherine would have loved seeing you stand up there, telling the truth without flinching." My father reached across the seat, squeezing my hand. Our relationship was still healing, but each day brought us closer to understanding. "The vineyard called," Mackenzie said, checking her phone. "The new Cabernet batch needs your approval for bottling." I smiled. "Back to real work, then." At the vineyard, Cadence was waiting by the main house, holding a newspaper. "Have you seen this?" The headline read, "Newton Vineyard Triumph, Justice Served with Notable Vintage." Below was a glowing review of our latest wine, paired with coverage of the trial's conclusion. "Tessa outdid herself," I said, scanning the article. "Speaking of outdoing," Cadence grinned, "wait until you see this." She led us to the tasting room, where a group of international distributors stood examining bottles of our wine. "They flew in this morning," she whispered. "After reading about the trial and tasting our latest vintage, they want exclusive contracts." Eugene appeared with a stack of papers. "Miss Zoe," the bank called. "With the restitution payments from Oscar and Rosalind's seized assets, we can finally restore the upper field. Those old vines your mother loved so much, we can save them all." "There's something else," my father said quietly. "I found this in your mother's old office." He handed me a sealed envelope, the paper yellowed with age. Inside was a letter, dated just days before her death. "My dearest Zoe, if you're reading this, something has happened to me. I've documented everything. The fraud, the affairs, the threats. Eugene knows where to find it all. But more importantly, I've documented every lesson I ever learned about making wine, about running this vineyard, about standing up for what's right. The papers are in the old barrel in the cellar, the one marked with your birth date. Remember, the best vintages come from vines that have weathered storms. You are stronger than any storm they can throw at you. All my love, Mom. The barrel, I whispered. Eugene, is it still? Right where she left it. He was already heading toward the cellar. The old barrel contained notebooks filled with my mother's handwriting, detailed instructions for every aspect of winemaking, along with personal notes about her hopes for the vineyard's future. And me. She knew, I said, running my fingers over her words. She knew what they were planning, and she made sure the truth would come out. And now it has, Mackenzie said. So what's next? I looked around at these people who had stood by me, Mackenzie with her unwavering loyalty, Eugene with his quiet strength, Cadence with her unexpected friendship, my father with his determination to make amends, and even Tessa, who had helped share our story with the world. Now, I said, we honor her legacy, not just by making wine, but by making it right. To Catherine, Eugene raised an imaginary glass. To Karma, Cadence added with a smirk. To family, my father said softly. The real kind. To truth, Mackenzie chimed in. I picked up my mother's notebook, her final gift guiding us toward the future she'd always envisioned. To all of it, and to the next vintage. May it be our best yet. Outside, the vines stretched toward the sun, stronger for having survived the storm. Just like me, just like all of us. The distributors were calling for me, eager to discuss contracts. There were wines to be bottled, vines to be tended, stories to be told. But now each bottle would carry not just our family name, but the truth of how we'd fought to preserve it. My phone buzzed. A message from the prison warden. Mrs. Wagner requests a meeting. I deleted it without responding. Some vintages are better left in the past. Ready? Mackenzie asked, gesturing toward the waiting distributors. I tucked my mother's notebook under my arm. Ready. Together, we walked into the tasting room, where new stories waited to be poured, one glass at a time.